Well, Brian brought a point too about, and what are you asking of your franchisees now that maybe you weren't during the downturn, or they're obviously I guess the economy isn't getting as better as I thought it might have been, but are you asking more things of them now that you might not have, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Well, just from a PIP standpoint, like I was just touching on, there's no more delaying.
There's no more leeway
extensions. You got to get the PIPs done because now we're putting a lot of emphasis on LTR, likelihood to recommend. And if your box isn't up to par, doesn't pass the sniff test, you're going to get terrible LTR scores. And when that happens, then you're on the verge of being defaulted and terminating, being kicked out of the system. So
we have become a transparent industry.
Yeah.
And for a brand to be successful, you need to become even more transparent.
Right.
You need to give access to the guest booking at your hotel and ability to look at your product, look at your scoring, look at your reviews. And for a brand to do so, you have to make sure that you're maintaining your brand standards and product quality. Mm-hmm. Now, what is product quality in my opinion and LaQuinta's opinion? You have got to be a leader along the street corner that you belong to. And sometimes your product quality and amenity varies depending on the need of a market. But as long as you're meeting the street corner needs and you are parallel to the concept that you belong to. So when it comes to renovation, my request or my question to my franchise partners and our own asset is very simple. Are you fitting enough to compete with the neighbors that you have at your street corner? And you need to renovate accordingly. And I think we are seeing a great deal of success in achieving that because that's what makes a franchisee successful.
But I think there's been a lot of deferred maintenance, let's say, over the course of the last, let's say 4 or 5 years. So it's that good enough. Some of the properties they're no longer good enough, meaning on that particular street corner, they can actually mix it and be fine. And that when they've dropped down, and I've got properties that have done the same, and you're not going to, when you're in the midst of a recession, you're not going to go and be the big jerk. And so it's now trying to work out, re-establish the baseline of what is good enough on that particular street corner to capture that or retain that business, because I think it's going to start to happen sooner rather than later. That this is really going to start to show. And David, when you said things aren't coming back quite as good as we thought they were, I'm going to close my ears because I want to keep that perspective. There is a perception in the industry and at the property level, and that things are coming back. And so I think that as an industry, we've got to maintain that there is a positive nature, and we've got to keep this going because it's funny. I hadn't heard those statistics, but it's quite informative. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be out there shouting about that one.
I don't think it's 2 days.
But I also think that the obligation of the franchisors is to make sure that we focus our franchisees to spend money where the customer appreciates it more. I think that's the so many times. You get the companies who are saying, hey, listen, I need a new cookie, or I need a new omelet, or a new egg. Is someone willing to spend more dollars or pay you more for that room because you're giving them those features? So I think it's our obligation to make sure that there is an ROI on everything we ask folks to do. I think there is a level of standards. I mean, I don't think, flat panel TVs, we're talking 32, 39, everybody, I don't think you can even buy 32s anymore, but I think from that standpoint, that's where our franchisees need to spend money. And I think the other thing is, we have TripAdvisor, I remember the debate when we're sitting there and saying, because we have the budget as up to upscale. So we, as a company, we have the full gamut. And I know there was some active discussion, but I even said, the TripAdvisor. It was probably one of the best things that we ever did is we put TripAdvisor on our websites because we recognize and the better franchisee. It made those franchisees who needed to do work read the evaluations and start doing work, or you can move them out. So I think that was the other thing.
Let's keep on that TripAdvisor social media.
On the CapEx, I think there's still a lot of deferred maintenance though, because in 2008, the U.S. lodging industry, so this is all hotels, spent about $5.5 billion. In 2010, it was down to $2.7 billion, so less than half. Last year, it was about $5, but that's after 3 years of deferred maintenance. So there's still some catching up to do.
Without a
But I
doubt.
think you're right. I think the guest-facing expenditures are happening first. It's not a lot of behind-the-scenes compliance and new breakfast items.
Right.
So
And there's still some properties that are lender-owned, bank-owned, out there. There's still more than what we thought. I think what's probably happened is as the market has gone up a little bit, some of those folks that, took the write-offs, have it on their balance sheets as, zero, are looking at it now and saying, hey, do I have another 6 months or a year before I sell it? Or at the end of this year, can I get a little bit more before I have to put another dime into it and do that? So I think there is some of that, more of that going on today than we actually think. I think there's still, some properties in influx of, ownership from that standpoint. And I think what will end up happening is those properties will end up selling and the dollars will be going in. And I think that's a good time for, the franchisors to say, okay, here's your PIP, you got to do it.
Well, and that's a good point because the existing franchisees, they get more leeway when they stay in the system. Once you leave, all bets are off.
Yep.
Time to change. That's where the money's spent immediately. Now, what we're doing is we're taking our bottom 20% and giving them PIPs and giving them a time frame to get up to standards. Because we're at a disadvantage regarding this subject is a lot compared to everybody else. We vote on everything,
Right.
So the members have a vote and say on what goes forward and what you have to do. So it's a longer process, but it's a democratic process. But it's got to be every year, every 2 years. You got to keep it in cycle because you got to be relevant.
But if you look at historically, the owner today of a select service hotel is a lot more aware of need of a good quality product than 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So the proactiveness, if you have a right partner and a partner who is understanding of a culture and need of the guest, majority of them are proactive in what they need to do and taking actions as necessary rather than you forcing it. Yes, there are always a few that you have to work along with and get them to the right place, but I think the culture of industry has changed dramatically over the last 10, 15 years.
Well, it's transparent for the guest. It's transparent for the owner too. So the guest can go look at the pictures and look at the reviews. So can the owner look at the pictures and look at the reviews.
I think there's more institutional investors in the mid-scale segment today, and so there's more management companies. More management companies, they're going to get their fees, from a property performing, and they're forcing the institution, hey, you got to give me money to fix my properties. I think, when the select service mid-scale segment, was probably an extension of the economy segment back in the day when it was, the single entrepreneur, because of the segment is so large today, and because there are so many other companies investing into it, I think that has helped drive some of the improvements out there, as well as the management companies forcing those owners out there.
Well, I think that another bit kind of on your point is that, and I know nobody in this room doesn't forget this, but we're the franchisors, they pay us, like we're employed by them. And I think that their opinion is probably the most important opinion that's out there besides the guest. That we ask our franchisees. I mean, that's where our standards come from. What do their guests want? What do they think is important for their hotels? And they do. They make those changes. All of our conversions, all of our properties, they're doing the upgrades. We're not asking them to do it. They see something that they need to do, and they're doing it. We're doing the QAs, and they're coming back great, and it's because they have pride in their property and they're doing what needs to be done. I think that's a really important factor in who you choose to be a franchisee. And
for that matter, I don't remember having a contentious conversation with a franchise partner about the renovation in a long time.
Yeah, I think the owners, I agree with Raj, I think it's not a matter of do they think they should do it. It's just a timing issue in terms of finding how quickly can I get it done. I agree we need to do it.
And can they finance it?
3 years ago, if I had the money available, the resources to do it. And with our flagship and Comfort, I think the transparency had a lot to do with it. You know, we've earmarked $40 million to help our Comfort owners refresh Comfort is. So it's like, look, everybody's got the PIP, but to accelerate that process,
this is money you're putting that choice is putting.
Yeah, that choice Comfort. Yeah, we put $40 million that the board approved. I think it's the transparency that kind of scared our chairman of our board, saying, you mean to tell me that folks can go and stay at one of our hotels and the next day, just that awareness, okay, we have to make sure we protect our flagship, which is Comfort.
Yeah.
So yeah, we wrote the PIPs, they are what they are, but how can we step up to accelerate the timing in which that renovation gets done?
Yeah.
So that's
one of the last thing I know we're talking a lot about that CapEx, but I think it's important to all of us, obviously, is what we did is we found 6 or 7 touch points, things that we know the guests care about. And again, owning half the brand, I think we're in a similar situation there where we have every time we make a brand standard change, we have to do it too. So we really did do a lot of studying on, what is the guest really looking to do? What do they want in the rooms? Do they want more plugins? Yes. Do they want flat screens? Yes. Do they want a really good bedding package or a comfortable bed? And so we found 6 things that we're requiring all of our franchisees to do, and of course we're willing to step up to.
Yeah.
So when you have a skin in the game, if you will, I mean, you have to really believe in it, and it has to be a good ROI, or we're not going to do it. At least that's how we run. And I know, Gus, you're in the same situation. I mean, you can't make decisions and grow your brand without understanding that there has to be return.
We own 2 properties as of today, quite frankly, I think we have boards for every one of our brands, and quite frankly, I think that we take that seriously, and we talk to them, and many of those folks will know what the impact would be on their properties as well. So we use that.
But you know what has changed to an owner? Getting an award of excellence from TripAdvisor.
Yeah.
It's a big deal today.
It absolutely is.
And I said, yesterday we got the results. 65% of my franchise partners' properties got TripAdvisor Excellence Award. So that's a good satisfaction.
That TripAdvisor seems like it's really important to you guys. Even though when they have people going on posing as
exactly
did
It's
you read
more
that?
important now than the brand award. We used to put the little stars in the book, or the flag or the gold.
So the question
now they really care about
because it is just not recognized by the brand.
Yeah.
It is recognized by the consumer.
But none of your employees go on and fake, because that was the big thing in the news about the hotelier going on and posing as a guest and writing. I think it was flattering things about
That's
their
not
hotel.
smart. They'll blacklist you in about 2
I would
seconds.
say that's at a minimal level.
It's
I
not
think
as
it peaked about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
TripAdvisor,
This just happened like a
technology.
they've
much
modified
better.
their algorithm. They can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone use TripAdvisor as part of their QA process? Like meaning when you're
We actually publish TripAdvisor.
We do too.
in our
Right, but it's
website.
not
On your website.
We do
Everybody
too.
pretty much
I think
do
Star
nowadays.
Wars,
And Medallia is what we use for our product quality process.
Got
it.
So,
That's
which
what
is
we
similar
use.
to
Yeah.
TripAdvisor. You're getting feedback from your consumer anyhow.
Right.
So if you look at the way industry has changed, we used to have time where we used to send somebody unannounced and somebody walking around the hotel. Now you have those things happening on a daily basis from 20-30% of your guests that come to your hotel and provide feedback on your property, and you get your Medallia results on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So
Medallia basically is like a Smith Travel Research. You get a report compared to a competitive set.
Exactly.
So
Right.
Yeah.
it really is that local, I think you said street corner or neighborhood.
Street corner,
kind of comparison.
I think that is the future, Brandon. You're right. Use your guests to help analyze evaluate your properties. We use market metrics, which is similar to Medallia. And TripAdvisor, we actually put it right on the QA, so it's 20%. What the guests are saying about your property is 20% of your performance.
You guys use TripAdvisor on your QA?
No, we don't. No, I was just wondering whether anyone does actually formalize that as part of the QA system.
Our QA system today is treated through Medallia.
Right.
Yeah, we have Medallia, but we also look, because we have access to the TripAdvisor, you can always look at that as well as making sure that if you have high TripAdvisor scores and, you can go out there and have an inspection, one thing is off or whatever it may be, it helps round your decision making from that standpoint.
I know at Choice I use it on the front end, right? Not every new property coming in, it has to be part of the evaluation.
it's for certain brands, especially for set.
So the other thing we have done as a brand that we actually reward half the point of their royalty rebate at the end of every year if they are above or at system average or medallion score.